and thank you for tuning in to Gardening with Daddy Pete today. I'm Melvin York.
And I am Jay York. Thank you for joining us today.
Remember that with our podcast here that you can see it on YouTube.
Yep. And along with that, visit our website, www.daddypetes.com. That is with an S at the end of Pete. There you will see a link to Podbean. That'll give you a link to all of your favorite streaming platforms. It'll take you right to us on Spotify, Apple Music, Prime, wherever you would prefer to listen to our wonderful voices this morning.
Yeah, and also while you're there, make sure that you do like, and if you have any comments, we'd love to hear those also. This morning, we're going to be talking about pest in the landscape, in your garden, and, if you tuned in last week, we talked about some of the things that you could be planning for your fall garden. Some of the things that, if you'll go back to that podcast, and you can find that again archived on our website, which is daddypetes.com. Some of the summer crops can still be planted up until your fall frost date. And then again, you have your crops that can go ahead, and they do thrive in cool weather, some even in frost. But we do have, even in the landscape and in your garden, we have pests. So today, what we chose to do was kind of give you a few tips on pest management and how to spot them, what to do for them, how to prevent them. And as we do a lot of times here on our podcast, we always turn to a lot of our extension agencies, on like North Carolina State Extension through the university there. And of course, there's others that we use, Clemson, we use Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech. We use just different university extensions for whatever state you're in. If you're listening to us out of state here from North Carolina. But again, you can get information that has been tried and true, tested. They've done the research on it for years, not just for a day or two. And so it's a good thing. So if you'll notice, if you are watching on YouTube or watching where you have the visual, I have up the NC State's page is entitled Integrated Pest Management, or IPM. So these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about. They do give you an outline. They give you an extensive amount of knowledge on how to do each and every one of these different segments. So, Jay, you want to get us started off this morning?
Yeah. So, and as Dad was saying here, referring to the North Carolina State Extension, where we're at today, it's actually the Gardener's Handbook is something that they compel. That has a lot of different chapters from soil, gives you tips on tilling, building beds. I mean, it gives you a little bit of everything. Plant varieties. It talks a little bit about everything. So this specific chapter, is their pest management. So it's a good deep dive. I encourage you all to check it out, look at the Extension Gardener Handbook, and read it for yourself a little more in depth. We're kind of going to do just a broad overview of it. Touch on some key points that we've related to in our experiences. But again, we encourage you to visit their site, see what they're all about, and look at the other publications that they have.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. You can get it through the handbook, but if you also look under if you'll notice right here on the NC, they do have publications. You can go on their page and do that. And that covers a wide array of different subjects. But you can also find this under publications. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that Gardener's Handbook can be bought online. I don't remember what they charge for that. But again, it is just a world of knowledge right at your fingertips. I don't know if they have it in a downloadable version or not, but I do know that you can get a hard copy and you can buy that. So let's go ahead and get into this in the first thing there then, Jay. And I'm just going to kind of leave this page up instead of following along. and or maybe I can follow along. We'll try it and see. So we got kind of an outline here. So which way are you going to start?
Yeah. So our first question is, why do we want to use integrated pest management, and what is it? So everyone thinks we live in a world where we have phones. We want something instantly. Your chat GPTs, your AIs, we live in a very instant society. And so when a lot of people think of pest management, you're thinking of course, pesticides, spraying chemicals. And that's your only, I'll spray a chemical. I'll get my Roundup in a sprayer and I'm done. I don't have to deal with any more weeds. So with that being said, you can kind of look along in their introduction. That's not really a good idea for multiple reasons. Whenever you're spraying pesticides, and this can go with insects, this can go with weeds, this can go with a lot of different variables, mammals even in your garden. Whenever you're just spraying a pesticide, sometimes you may be killing one thing, but you may be harming something else too, multiplying another species for it to thrive and grow. So you might be solving one problem and doubling down on another.
Well, usually nature has its own system. And pest, what is a pest to one thing may be beneficial to another. And that is part of the ecosystem. So what we like to do is whatever we do, naturally, we don't want bugs or deer, for one instance, or moles or voles or whatever it be, whether it be, like Jay said, a mammal, or it be a insect, whether it actually be a disease. We don't want those taking over our plants, destroying our crops. So, but there is a way to do these, sometimes by the prevention. Another way of doing things, and I don't know that we'll just mention it today, is companion planting is another way to do it. There's different ways of taking care of pests in your landscape, in your garden, without using harmful pesticides or sprays or traps, so to speak, of that nature. So anyway.
Yeah, and that evaluation stage is key, like you said, because, what if this thing that I'm trying to kill off is pollinating something else? It's good for my squash plants. It's good for something else. So you have to take all of that into consideration. One example I thought was pretty cool they have is a woodpecker putting holes in a tree, but it's going to eat larvae for something else later on in the fall. So again, you just have to consider, outweigh the good and the bad. Which one do you want to put up with? Because if you start killing everything, you're going to have a concrete yard, and that's not what any of us want. If you're listening to this podcast, I wouldn't think. This is a gardening podcast. We want to keep everything nice and green. So it's all about choices, just kind of like anything else in life.
And again, let's go back to what you just said about the woodpecker. The woodpecker is going after an insect that is damaging the tree.
Yep.
And it's going to damage the tree too. You say, well, the woodpecker's going to do this. Well, which is worse? I mean, go back to the pine beetles and all. And I know that's not really, it's just an example. That's not what we're going about gardens. But just to give you one tip, and I noticed in here that they even mentioned that. Squash borers are a big pest in gardens, and what they do is they actually go along the dirt line. They bore into the stalk at the dirt line. They work their way up, eating out the hollow part of the plant. And one day you've got a great squash plant, the next day it's dead. It's laid over dead. One squash that squash borers do not attack is a butternut squash.
Yep.
So planting things like that. But what else can you plant? And we're right back to varieties or companion planting makes a difference.
Well, and that too, and we've touched on this briefly in other podcasts too. Sticking with native plants to your landscape, maybe getting out of the gardening aspect, the road gardening, vegetable gardening, going into landscaping, choosing plants that are native. That's going to keep those plants that are a little more, get something drought tolerant if you're in an area that's more susceptible to drought. If you're in a wetland, choosing something that's going to put up with that extra moisture, consider the environment and the ecosystem that you're in and choosing things that thrive in that area so you don't have to do a lot of this.
Well, that's true. And, a lot of things, and I was just glancing through here, if I can find my little arrow as we go down through that on some of the things we do. And here's the biggest thing that you want to look at. And here's where I think a lot of people, especially new gardeners, may not know to do this. And one thing is that you inspect your plants daily or every other day, and insects are smart. A lot of them hide. And the place that you want to check is on your stems of the plant and underneath the leaf. There's where you find a lot. Aphids, for example, is one that would be found under there. Your squash bugs, or we call them stink bugs, or cucumber bugs, look under the leaves. If you see those little group of yellow-like eggs and all, they've laid their eggs there, discarded that leaf, put it into the fire, burn it. Do not put that into your compost pile. So these are some of the things you do. You have to scout your garden. That's number one. Do you have a problem? And the way to do that, well, now that is for an insect. What you need to scout your problem. What if you have deer eating your plant? Or maybe it's something simple as rabbits. Again, that's one thing to look up. All right. What if you have a wilt problem on your tomatoes, Fusarium wilt, or one of the different wilt diseases? Again, you'll know this, but you can catch it early and hopefully can do something about your problems if you do catch it early and you don't lose your crop.
And you were talking about tomato wilting. Kind of our area of, I'm not going to say expertise, but our biggest area of study that they mention here in this is, of course, going to be your soil condition and your soil health. So that's something that we study a lot here because of the nature of what we do. We offer a full line of soil amendments, potting mixes, raised bed mixes, lawn and garden soils. That is our bread and butter. That is what we do here at Daddy Pete's. So that's something that we're going to go into in here for a little bit too. Earlier we mentioned something about stressed plants. So what a stressed plant is it's not having a good environment. It's just like, in a hostile work environment. Anything else that's not thriving in an environment where it can truly do what it needs to do, a lot of that's gonna start with your soil. So a plant that has the right soil environment is not going to be susceptible to a lot of these pests because it's not as stressed. So how do you do that? Where do we start getting our soil right? Well, that's going to depend on a lot of things. What kind of soil are you starting out with? That's why we always preach, get with your local extension agent, do a soil test, see where you need to improve, see where you don't need to improve. If you start just going out here, I can throw nitrogen on my yard, I just need nitrogen. Well, you might be over fertilizing and you might be introducing new diseases in that you didn't have to worry about by not putting that extra nitrogen in. So that's why we want to do the soil test. See where you need to improve.
Well, the number one spot to start building and what you're after is depending on, it really makes no difference whether you're doing a landscape, where you're doing new landscape projects, whether you're doing an annual bed, a perennial bed, if you're doing a raised bed, or if you're just doing row gardening. You need to add amendments, and I've seen very few areas, and especially in North Carolina, that you didn't need to amend the soil some way. Now, at Daddy Pete's, one thing that we do, and we take great pride in, our composted dairy manure. It has thousands of beneficial microbes, and that the benefit part is for the plant itself, plant roots, plant growth. We act feeding it in a slow way. Organic material like that releases, but it keeps on and continually works in your soil. That's why we offer our Daddy Pete's composted cow manure. We offer our mushroom compost, our what we call kicking chicken, which is a chicken manure and a cow manure that has been composted together to give you the best of both worlds without burning your plants. Okay, and we're feeding it. Another thing is we have our planting mix. Our planting mix is for planting shrubs and trees with, mixing in any situation usually. If it's red clay, or if it's some of the even loamy like rocky, mix it 50-50 when you're planting those. Roses works well for that. But anyhow, what we're doing is we're helping to build that eco type system soil that helps things grow on their own, makes it healthy. And believe it or not, a healthy plant will fight off diseases on its own. And that's where all the beneficial microbes come in that we provide in our Daddy Peat mixes also. So just to give you an idea, there's more to an organic mix that's truly organic than what you realize.
Yeah. And going a step farther from our mixes too, we also offer a line of mulches as well. We offer a pine bark mulch, pine bark mini nuggets. We offer a hardwood mulch. All of these things too, as you go through and look at this Extension Gardener Handbook in this section with pests, they even mention a little bit about mulching. That's something that we've talked extensively on here in the last few podcasts. So I don't want to beat a dead horse and go through the benefits of mulching or the drawbacks of mulching. Again, that's something that, you guys can read in your own time.
And actually, we do have a podcast that we did on that. I'm telling you the benefits, when you want to, what you want to use and all.
Exactly.
If you'll go back and look on our website.
Exactly, where we do that good deep dive. But a good summary of that is using a good high quality mulch like a Daddy Pete's hardwood mulch or a pine bark mulch, depending on what you are using it for. If you have questions, feel free to get on the website, send us in a question. We'll be happy to help you out in selecting the right product for your needs. But I said all that to say, mulching can be a very beneficial way of trying to reduce disease. It'll keep your weeds down. But if it's done incorrectly, you can introduce new diseases too.
Well, again, you're talking about the stress in the plant. When hot weather comes, and if you mulch that plant over, you help keep the water even, which a plant loves. Okay. It keeps it from, like today, when we're actually getting flooding in some areas today from the rains, it keeps it from taking on too much rain or too much water. It kind of protects it there. And the heat we've had at the 100+ degree days, it helps keep those plant roots cool. So again, it gives it more of an even temperature. Now, vice versa, in cold weather, it helps keep those plants warmer, those roots warmer. So when you go mulch over. Again, it also keeps the moisture level at a more even rate. This makes a healthier plant, and a healthier plant can fight off disease just like a healthy human being can. You want to keep your body healthy, so you do fight off disease, and everybody knows that someone with a weak system in their bodies actually take colds quicker, they catch disease quicker. Same thing with the plant. A healthy plant can fight off disease and go right on, or fight off the warmer weather, like you said, or whatever the situation it is that it's dealing with.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I didn't think of adding that in there. I'm glad you did. That's a great analogy. A couple other points that we'll kind of throw out there too quick. I know we'll probably need to be wrapping up here in the next few minutes. But cleanliness and organization, that goes a long way too. Keeping your yard mowed. Say you're wanting to keep snakes down. Well, you're not going to have a yard full of tall grass for them to go out there and thrive in the environment that they love. You're going to want to keep that grass short. Rake up any kind of unwanted leaves and debris. You're going to want to prune. Keep everything from that undergrowth from getting all over the ground there. Keep your plants nice and healthy. Don't let them suscept diseases in by not pruning at the correct dates at the correct times. And another thing too is planting dates. If you plant earlier in your germination dates, everything with your seeds, you kind of look those over. We've covered that extensively. If you look in the last 2 or 3 podcasts, that's something we've talked about a lot. Study out the insect that you're trying to avoid, or the pest that you're trying to avoid. See when their mating seasons are. You might be able to find that good line in there where you can get in a prime planting date and avoid some of the pest mating season too.
Right. And here's a couple good things too. And I've got a picture of it up right now that you can see if you are on YouTube. And it's a picture of of a bagworm cocoon. You'll find those on a lot of the evergreen trees. You'll find them in different things. And actually, you'll find them more or less around conifers because they look like, oh, wow, it's made a neat little new cone or whatever. Study that as on that picture because it's going to be a brown look more than a white look as a picture showing it. And what you're wanting to do with that, again, that's bagworms. They destroy, they eat away. Pick those off, make sure that they're burnt. Don't put them in a compost pile. Make sure they do that. Another way to get rid of pests, if you see them, hand pick them off. Put them in a bucket, get rid of them, destroy them. They make sticky traps that you can use for your garden around your plants and all that will do that. And again, use plants. I know that marigolds are used a lot in a garden to repel plants, but you can also use plants as a trap. Some of these pests love a certain plant that is not even a vegetable if you're going that way. Use that in different areas and let those pests go to that plant and devour it because that's not the plant that you planted. That's not what you want. And it keeps them off of the plants or the veggies that you're after. So these are all things that you can do that. But again, you have to scout, you have to look, you have to evaluate, and then come out with what rule that you're going to attack this situation. And there's several ways to do that, just like I explained.
Yeah, and you were talking about planting trap plants. Another thing that you can do along with that too is crop rotation. So if you know that you had a problem last year with tomato plants in a certain area of your yard, pick another area where if you're row planting, move it down a few feet, try it out in a different area, rotate everything around. If you have things like in your cooler weather gardens, you've got broccoli, cabbage, all kind of right there together that would be susceptible to similar diseases. Rotate them around if you have the room. Try them out in a different area of your garden. And if you don't have the room, if you are row gardening, this would be a great time. If you've never tried raised bed gardening, you can try that out. You're introducing a brand new soil in, something like our raised bed mix with the composted cow manure, ready to use. Go ahead and try that out. See how it does. It's something to put in your gardening journal. I know, Dad, that's something you've always, back before I joined the podcast a few months ago, and that's something I've always heard you say, keep a journal. This is something that you can add into your journal too.
Exactly. And just to add a little extra to that, when you come into crop rotation works for, I would say, probably 80% of your crops. There's some crops you don't want to rotate. Some that, and cabbage, for example, is one of them. Cabbage it's a nice crop to plant in the fall, early spring, but again, it does bring in a lot of worms. It brings in some of the different type of, using the word critter, into the root soil, and some plants don't do well with it. Again, this is why you need to study, and you can also find that on the extension page 2 of companion planting. Now, in companion planting, those crops are great to rotate with each other, okay? But some crops don't work well being planted behind another crop for the next year or the next season. So again, that's why that I encourage you to look up your companion planting, because a lot of people will turn around and where you've had cabbage, they may want to plant, let's just say tomatoes, and you're going to find out, or peppers, that it's not going to do well there. So again, look up companion planting, and it's fine to rotate those crops in between each other. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we can go through here and again do a deep dive on everything, but this is just a good introduction, guys. A good overview of this, and this isn't the only publication out there. Although it's a great publication, we recommend you read it. See what, if you are in a different area of North Carolina, if you're in a different area of the Southeast, or even in a different area of the country, you've moved away from North Carolina, if you used our products before, or if you've never used them before, wherever you're listening, again, it goes back to consulting your local community of gardeners, go to your local extension office. Talk to like-minded individuals, see what's working out for people, see what's not working out for people. We always promote, do your own research, double check us. That's what we're here for.
Well, the thing about it is, whether you're in North Carolina, you're in Virginia, you're in South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, whatever, you're going to have pests. That's something that's universal in the United States. The pests tend to be a little different from one area to another? Probably not that much. So about anything that you find here as far as helping you control a pest or the IPM, Integrated Pest Management System, I would say I've got the webpage back up for NC State Extension. I would say go there, and if nothing else, do a quick overview. What we have done today is that we hope we've given you some avenues and actually sparked something in your mind. And again, I know we do have a lot of new gardeners. We want you to be successful with that. Now, in saying that, we're going to close here in just a minute, but if you do get a moment, go to our webpage, which is daddypeats.com, and you can look there and you can archive. There are archived all of our podcasts there, and we do have YouTube videos to help you along, and we'll be introducing some more. We have a place there where you can ask a question, leave us a comment. You can do that on our podcast as you're listening to them there. Do that. We would love to hear from you. And if you have those questions, look at our products, see who we are on that webpage, and look at the different ones. You can find them in your local garden centers. We do not sell to the big box stores. You will find our stuff where you can go into a place where it's hometown people that owns these stores or these centers, and which can also give you information on your gardening and give you good information. One thing that I do want to mention before we leave here today, and I have a lot of people doing this, if you do your own home composting or you've got compost bins, and a lot of people plant directly into it, and you usually have success with that, and I'm glad you do. But keep in mind, when you buy our compost has been refined further, it's been screened further. It's not made to plant directly in. It will hold too much moisture. Whereas the compost you made at home, you've added more sticks, you've added more roughage to it, or browns, if you want to call it that. Of course, it takes greens and browns to make compost. What you want to do is when you buy ours, do not plant directly into it. It's made to add to, it gives you nutrients, and it also is an amendment for your soil. Okay, and that's the same way with our composted cow manure, our mushroom compost, our kicking chicken, and these are three of the products that you want to add to your soil and do not plant directly into. Okay, just thought I'd mention that because I have that question and have had it this week several times. Okay.
Yep. Well, again, we want to thank you guys for listening to us today. Like Dad said, check out our website, and then also you'll see the link to Podbean. Check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, all of the major platforms. We try to post regularly, and you can also sign up on our website. You can subscribe with your email to a newsletter. Comes out once a month. I believe the next podcast, that's what we're going to be kind of preparing for. We're going to do a podcast in conjunction with the August newsletter coming out. So if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so you can get notified as soon as that drops.
Yeah. And here's the thing about it. A lot of people don't like to sign up for emails. They think we're going to, send you something every day. We're going to tag you in your phone. We're going to do all that. We don't do any of that. You get your mail, through your email once a month. We don't sell your email. That's not what we're here after. We're here to help you, not to pester you. We don't want to be one of these pests we're talking about today. So, we actually send it out once a month, and that's the mailing you'll get from Daddy Pete one time a month. And we hope you will sign up for that. Well, Jay, I guess it's about time for us to get on into something else. So We're going to leave everybody with, we hope you don't have any pests, but if you do, maybe you will learn how to manage them, and we've helped you a little bit this morning.